Hello, everyone. Welcome back to this last part of today's conference.
Hello.
Our next speaker for this session is Mr. Ravin Papia, and we have the honor of having today a very illustrious and rich career person. He has been doomed by doctors with an early childhood death. However, he has defied all the doctors and stands today as a father, a reader, a trainer, a coach, a public speaker, a writer, a politician, and an influencer. Words fail me today to describe this person who is today our next speaker. He has been a 3 times Amazon One best-selling author with so many things in his career. Ravin Papia is today director at PLC Limited and is going to talk on leadership in crisis situation. Please join me in welcoming Ravin for today's session.
Thank you, Kasturi. Thank you to Mr. Arun Poligadu and to PMI chapter of Mauritius for giving me the opportunity today to share with you some insights on a leadership, especially in this crisis situation. So if you give me a couple of minutes, I'd just like to share my screen with you. Here we go. Okay, so leadership in crisis. Now we are living today in what we can call the new normal, isn't it? So today I'm going to share with you some insights into this new normal we are all living due to the pandemic and lessons that I have personally learned during my crisis so far. Now, how can we lead better during this crisis situation? Yes, it is a crisis, and the COVID-19 has really made it difficult for us. So how can we behave during a crisis? How can we behave during the crisis? What are the do's and the don'ts, and what other opportunities a crisis brings with it? Now, let's just have a look at what COVID-19 is all about. Now, on the 31st of December 2019, WHO was informed of cases of pneumonia of unknown cause in Wuhan city in China. Now, a novel coronavirus was identified as a cause by Chinese authorities on 7th January 2020 and was temporarily named 2019 nCoV. So the current scientific consensus is that the virus is most likely of zoonotic origin from bats or another closely related mammal. Now, CO stands for corona, VI for virus, and D for disease. Formerly, this disease was referred to as 2019 novel coronavirus, or like I say, 2019 nCoV. Now, the COVID-19 virus is a new virus linked to the same family of viruses as severe acute respiratory syndrome, the SARS, and some types of common cold. Now, the most recent common ancestor, which is MRCA of all coronaviruses, is estimated to have existed many years, as recently as 8,000 BCE, although some models place the common ancestor as far back as 55 million years or more. Now, let's just have a look at what is happening globally. As at yesterday, there have been more than 234,608,477 confirmed cases of COVID-19, including 4,798,467 deaths reported by WHO. Now, COVID-19 is a crisis, and a crisis, you'll agree with me, is quite common. I just stopped the sharing because I think there are some problems that I'm experiencing here.
No worries, Ravin. Please take your time.
Yes, I'm sorry about that. Now, yeah, so I was talking about how COVID-19 is a crisis. Now, a crisis is quite common because during a crisis, bad leadership, whether it is self or team leadership, precipitates faster fall, while good leadership would offer steadiness and perseverance. Now, there are never two good consecutive days in a leader's life. Agree? Which means that leaders should be used to rough times, to tough times. You see, a crisis is several consecutive bad days that you can't walk away from. My mentor, Dr. John C. Maxwell, defines a crisis as an intense time of difficulty requiring a decision that will be a turning point. Now, with everything going on in the world right now, our current global situation certainly meets that definition. Now, the good news is this crisis, like all the crises, will eventually pass. The challenge for the leader, for you, for me, is to stay strong and steady during this duration. Now, I have a question for you. Why do you think a crisis makes it easier to distinguish between good and bad leaders? That is you and me, because every one of us, we are leaders, isn't it? It is just that we are not aware of it. I mean, I still remember every time that I'm giving a keynote or I'm doing a training, I ask my audience, how many of you are leaders? And if there is 100 people in the room, there may be around 1/3 or a quarter that would raise their hands up and would say, yeah, I'm a leader. Some would be like, half hands up, and more than 50% would be remaining silent, because people are not even aware that they are a leader. Because when we talk about leadership, people say, oh, I'm not a manager yet. I don't have a team under me, so I'm not a leader. My mentor, Dr. John C. Maxwell, defines leadership as influence, nothing more, nothing less. So if leadership is influence, I think every one of us would agree here that we are influencing. A father is influencing his family, his children. A mother is influencing her children, her environment, even her husband. So we are all influencing. Yes, we may be influencing right, or we may be influencing wrong, but we are influencing. And you know that leadership is not good. Leadership is leadership. So leadership can be good, and it can be also not good. So let's see how a crisis, and actually this crisis of COVID-19, really helps us distinguish between those good or bad leaders. First, good leaders can thrive during a crisis. They can manage it safely to the harbor, and they can hold it steady. But with bad leadership, the crisis deepens quickly, and you can fall pretty fast with it. Now, everything rises and falls in leadership, isn't it? Because if the leadership is not strong, then everything down is going to be very uneasy. Next, a crisis shows a leader up. It shows a leader, whether it's a good leader or a bad leader. Now, what happens when there's chaos, when there's crisis? There's panic, isn't it? And if the first person who panics is a leader, then you can understand what's going to happen to the team, to the organization, to the country, to the world. Because if the leadership is not strong, if the leadership is not calm, because strong is also calm, if in that panic, in that storm, in that tsunami, if you can see the leader very calm, then you know that solutions are going to come up, because the leader is strong and steady. And here you will see whether the leadership is strong or not by the behavior of that particular leader. A crisis also brings the best out of a leader, because you see, a leader is someone who influences. Now, the leader, the one who influences, who is a real leader, who is a great leader, who wants to be the top leader, the best leader, the leader of people, influencing in the right way, is someone who is going to continuously invest on himself or herself and keep going and keep making himself the better version every day. Because he knows or she knows that if he is a better version, when a crisis is coming, maybe he won't or she won't have all the solution, but she knows that she can dig deep because he or she has been growing steadily, has been growing continuously. So when the crisis comes, the leader is again going back to school. I mean, when I say school, it's not going really to physical school, but going back to school, going to learning, going to study, because the leader knows that he has to be at the best. He has to find the solution. So while he is trying or she's trying to become, better, getting the latest updates, going and learning about this particular crisis and trying to find solution, he is automatically going to become better and he's going to take the best out of him or herself. So that crisis, at the end of the day, a crisis really helps a leader becoming the best that he or she can.
Ravin,
now,
are you sharing your screen? I'm sorry to interrupt, but we're not able to see it. Could you just check on your side?
You're not able to what?
We're not able to see your slides. Is there anything that you're sharing at the moment?
Oh, no, I've taken out the sharing
Sure.
because I'm having some conflicts.
No worries. Yeah. I'm sorry to interrupt, to have interrupted.
I will try, let me just try if I can do that again. No, I'm having some difficulties.
No worries.
Yeah. But I can share that afterwards. If you need that slides, I can share it afterwards.
Okay, wonderful. Please continue.
Yeah. So a crisis. So during those difficult times, a good leader says, "This is my moment. This is the reason why I was born." You see, a crisis is an incubator for emerging leaders. It is an opportunity for that leader to come out, to emerge, to bring solutions, to become the best version that he can, and bring a solution for the team, for the organization, for the world, for the people out there waiting for that particular solution. So a crisis is in fact an opportunity to add value to people. So how we view things determine how we do things. You see, if we view things negatively, and definitely a crisis when it's coming, it's talking about chaos, about negativity, about all the bad things. Look at COVID-19. I mean, actually our country, Mauritius, we are undergoing quite a difficult phase in this COVID-19 with so many cases and so many deaths on a daily basis. So people are worried. People are becoming emotional. And in this particular situation, it's very difficult to contain, ourselves. And even those people who are vulnerable, they are becoming more and more emotional. People, if they have to go to work, physically go to their office, people are very, very afraid. They are thinking about whether I should go or not because they have kids at home. They have maybe small children at home, and they are always like thinking about, if I may be, infected, what if I go out and I get infected and I come home? So we're thinking about security. We're becoming emotional. So we have that tendency, and it's normal, it's human also to have that tendency to see the negative, to see the dark side of that crisis. But if we think negative, if we see it in the dark world, automatically we are going to do things that way as well. So we kind of be very negative, and we are going to lose our control, our self-control, and our sanity, our calmness, and it will be difficult for us to find solutions to problems. So what experience do we need in leading during a time of crisis? I think the first and foremost, you've heard it before. I won't tell you in what context, but you've heard it: put people first. Put people first. I mean, you've heard it, of course, but this is not a bias. It's not a fad. It's true. You have to put people first during a crisis. And you have to start by you. You have to start by you. For example, in this COVID-19 crisis, you have to take care of yourself. You have to take care of your health. You have to take all the, all the sanitary precautions, save yourself first, because if you're safe, you will be able to take care of your family. You'll be able to take care of your organization, of your team, of everyone who depends on you. So put people first, because with Corona, it's the safety of the people. And this is your safety first. It's incredibly easy, isn't it? You agree with me? It's easy, it's right. Sanitize your hand and put on your mask and keep the social distancing. Because if you put your safety first, you put everyone around you to safety as well. So as a leader, it's all about the people. It's not about me. It's not about you. It's about the people, because this is what makes it important. And I will leave you with a question, food for thought, that you can think about. What makes a crisis seem so urgent? You see, crisis comes all throughout our life, through millions of years that that planet Earth exists. Crisis has always been there. The crisis, when it comes, it seems so urgent, because now we don't have time to think, and we don't have the leisure to take all the time that we normally take. We have to act, we have to think, we have to bring out solution. So that's what makes a crisis, seem so urgent, because we need a solution. We're looking for a solution that maybe don't exist. Okay, we have the vaccine now, which has come out with so quickly, and thanks to all the science, all the people behind that. We don't know whether the vaccine, how far it is. It is right, but we do have it, at least for precaution, as what we are being said. Now I'm going to talk about battling distractions. You see, a crisis is a distraction for the majority of people. Now, just imagine 2 years back when it started in Mauritius. What happened when we had the first confinement? People were taking it like a picnic, really, People were kind of like, despite the fact that we were in confinement, people were out, were going to the seaside, and people were taking like it's a holiday. So it becomes like a distraction. It pulls you away from life focus and towards something else. Now, I'm not saying that the majority of people were feeling like they were on holidays, but there was some people, the majority of people, they were now focusing on that particular crisis. They're not focusing on life. They're focusing on that crisis. They're focusing towards something else. Now, whether it's breaking news alerts on the evening news, on radio, TV, or a panic report from the stock market, there are plenty of things seeking to pull your attention away from the issue at hand, because you are experiencing three things really. First, it's mind wandering. You are experiencing mind wandering. Now, thinking about what could happen instead of focusing on what is happening. Because your mind is wondering, what is going to happen? Will I get infected? Is my family member going out to work is going to be infected? If you have doctors or people working in the medical world, family members who are working there, you are worried and you are asking you questions. You are focusing on what is happening, or on what could happen rather than what is happening. Second is negative thinking. You're feeling as if everything that could go wrong is going wrong. You're kind of like feeling that the sky's falling on your head, like everything is going, that's the end of the world. Like some people even told me, I think it's the end of the world, finally. I think we're all going to die. So negative thinking. And then the third one is uncertain anxiety, the fear of the unknown, which amplifies other fears. Now, let me tell you, on the 1st of March, I had a training session at Voila for my club, Maxwell Speakers Club. We had a session and we had invited so many guests, and it was full house. Nearly 80 plus people were there. And after 5 days, I was called by the Ministry of Health and told that there was someone who attended that meeting who now is COVID positive. And that I have to give them a list of all the people who attended that session. And then after a couple of minutes, I had another phone and said, Mr. Bapia, you're going to be taken into quarantine because that person said he shook hands with you. Now, at that moment, I can tell you, it was full anxiety. It was kind of like, oh my God, I think I was infected. And for a whole week, I was meeting people, and I was speaking at one of the meeting of PMI chapter of Mauritius. One of these days I was there. After that happened, after the first, I think on the 4th of March, I was speaking to PMI chapter of Mauritius, and I was so anxious. I was so kind of like, oh my God, what happened? If I'm infected, that means I've infected so many people all around. I've been there at PMI, I've been there in the meetings, I've been meeting customers and all that. So uncertain anxiety, because you have the fear of the unknown, which amplifies your other fears. Like that day, my fear was amplified for 48 hours. I have to tell you, I got there and they got my test only 24 hours later, and then I had to wait 24 hours again for the results. So 48 hours of full anxiety were there. Not necessarily for me, because I thought that maybe if I'm being taken in quarantine, most probably I'm positive. But what have I done to all the people that I met? And I had to, send a message to Arun and all the people that I met to tell them, hey, you know what, I'm being taken to quarantine because one of the people who attended my meeting was infected. So you see, when you get distracted, you lose sight of reality, you lose touch with hope, and then you fall prey to anxiety, which in turn infects the people in your surroundings. Now, just because someone else's sky is falling, it doesn't mean that your sky is falling too. So we must discipline ourselves to stay focused in times of crisis. And I have to tell you, during those 16 days of quarantine, it was kind of like you get the impression that you're losing. And then it was like, at the start of this year, it was kind of that there's a second wave. And I was thinking about all these other things, and I had to bring my mind to focus. So I spent it was 24 hours for 16 days closed in a room. You didn't have the right to go out. You couldn't speak to people. I mean, yes, on the phone, etc. But you couldn't meet people 16 days on that one room, and you had to do everything there for 24 hours. So I had to focus my mind. I had to do things like doing exercises, like going on Facebook and doing lives and reading and doing so many things just to keep my mind focused on positivity. Now, another question I have for you is, why do you think it is so easy for people to get distracted during a crisis? Big question, right? So why do you think we get distracted? First is watching the news, watching TV. And it's also negative because you see, news sell when it is very spicy. And when you're having this information, you kind of like, focus on that and your mind wanders. Then you have that fear, that lack of faith in you, lack of belief, which leads to lack of actions, because you kind of like, oh my God, this is not going to end up. And we never knew when it started. We never knew that's going to be 2 years running. And we don't know how many more. We were thinking this is something that has come, and after a couple of weeks or months, it's going to go away. It's still with us, 2 years now. So what are some good ways we can maintain focus during these times of distractions? The first thing is, you can't control what you can't control. You can't control what you can't control, isn't it? You can't control when this pandemic is going to go away. It is going to go away, of course it is. But when? We don't know. So you can't control what you can't control. So why put your energy in trying that? Why sit down and think, do you think I'm going to be infected? Do you think if I go out, I'm going to be infected? Do you think I should be going out, and etc., etc.? So what you can control is you. You can control you. You can bring your bottle of sanitizer. I still remember, I've been using sanitizer for a couple of years now. A lot of time before the crisis came in, and I was using sanitizer, and I was like sharing with some of people, and people were laughing at me. Why are you using that? Why are you using sanitizer? So when the pandemic struck, it kind of like, for me, it was a habit, because I have a bottle in my car. When I get in my car, I sanitize my hand. When I get out of my car, I sanitize my hand, and it was kind of a habit. And then everyone else has had to make this a habit. So what you can control is you. Are you going out? Are you having your bottle of sanitizer every time with you? Are you having your mask? Are you desanitizing? Are you sanitizing or cleaning your mask every day when you're using it? So you can control you. Are you keeping the distance? Are you? I know it's hard. We're human beings. We are social beings. We need to hug. We need to kiss. We need to. This is who we are. We are human beings. But because of this pandemic, we have to contain ourselves. So we can control us. We can control you. We can control me. So we can control ourselves. We can control our thoughts. And this is magic. A lot of people think that, okay, it's coming in my head, and what do you want me to do? I'm thinking about that. But you can control your thoughts. You are the master. You are the master. You can control what goes in your mind, and you can control also what stays in your mind. So there's many ways to do that. Unfortunately, I don't have enough time to go into, the details of that, but you can control your thoughts, and then you can control your actions. You can control your actions. You see, whatever you think, you see, Napoleon Hill say, whatever the mind can conceive and believe it can achieve. If you conceive negative, you believe negative, you will achieve negative. But if you conceive positive, you believe positive, you will achieve positive. Your actions would be, what your thoughts are, because your action will be coming from your thoughts. And then you can control your lemonade, isn't it? What kind of lemonade do you want to drink? You don't want to drink lemonade, pure lemonade, or do you want to put alcohol in that? It's all a choice. So we can control ourselves, our thoughts, our actions, and our lemonade. So do the things you've always wanted to do, but you didn't have time to. This confinement, I have to tell you, these 2 years, I think I've done much more in the past 2 years than I've done in the past 10 years. It has been amazing. Like every one of you at the start, I was also anxious. I was also negative. I was also thinking, oh my God, what's happening? Oh my God, I'm not going to be able to go out. I'm a trainer. I'm a coach. I need to meet people. I need to go out and speak. And we didn't know. I mean, in Mauritius, especially, people were not too comfortable with online, with like, I'm talking to a screen, actually. You are seeing me. We were not used to that. I had Zoom since it was launched, but I was never be able to use it in Mauritius because every time that I was trying to put on something virtual, people are telling me, no, I mean, let's do it physical. Let's do it face to face. It's more comfortable. It's more exciting. So people were not used to that. And I was telling myself, oh my God, so what do I do now? I have no work, you see? So, but these 2 years, especially during the confinement, especially during my 16 days of quarantine, it was time and time and time, which we were always saying that we don't have. We were always complaining. I don't have time. There's no time. 24 hours is too less. We need to have more. I'm not having time for myself. You remember that. I mean, every one of us, we know that. I've been also someone who's been always complaining about time. But we didn't have time, but now we have time. So what can we do? We can read. We can write a book. My 5th Amazon co-authored book is coming out this month in October. So I wrote, I think, 3 of them over the pandemic, over the two past years. I've been co-writing 3 books. Cultivating your garden. Okay, I love gardening. I'm sure many of you here also love gardening. So you can do that. You can take a course. Now it's so like viable, Udemy and I mean, everywhere you can see courses available virtually, and many of them also free. So you can take that course that you always wanted to, but you didn't have time. You can refine your public speaking skills. You can go to a speaking club. You can visit speaking club, Toastmasters, Maxwell Speakers Club, wherever you have the opportunity. You can launch a show. You can go on Facebook and have your own show, like Oprah Winfrey have the Oprah show. You can have your own show. I have my Ravin Papia show. I mean, I just go on Facebook and I speak, or I read a chapter, and I'm doing something, So you have to be in action positively, and you can do so many things. I've given you so many ideas. You don't need to do all of them, but pick up one and do it. The pandemic is giving us that time, which we didn't have. So we can take that time to pause and to reflect. Where are we going? What are we doing? And where do we want to head? Where do we want to be in 5 years? Where do we want to be in 10 years? Let me tell you, if you pause and reflect and you look at where you are today, and where you want to be in 5 years or 10 years, and you can see that gap, you will see how many things and how much you have to do, how much things, different things that you have to do. And then you can focus on those in the place of focusing on a negativity and getting discouraged and getting, So what are some helpful ideas for positive thinking during times of challenge? I let you think about that, because I've given you a lot of ideas. And I think the most important, every one of us, we're doing that. We're working because we want to take care of our family. We want to take care of ourselves, because if we don't take care of ourselves, how can we take care of our family? You know, you have to put your mask first, and then you can put the mask of others, because if you're safe, healthy, in good situation, you can take care of your family and everyone else. So you can do a lot of things. So just do that small exercise. Where are you today? And where do you want to be in 5 years or 10 years? See that vision, and then estimate what is a gap from where you are to where you want to get, and what do you need to do to fill in that gap. And that would give you ample work to do, ample focus in a lot of great things that you can accomplish. Let me end up the last part in talking about character in a crisis. You see, crisis reveals our character in many ways. It shows who we are on the inside, and it puts our ability to adapt to shifting circumstances on display. My mentor, John C. Maxwell, says, you are not made in a crisis, you are revealed. So a crisis would tend to test us. And it's not a bad thing if we are not ready for a crisis. The good thing, the great thing indeed, would be that the crisis tells us how much more of steel, of steam do we need to add to ourselves? How much more can we become? How much more can we stretch, or we need to stretch? So often people think that a crisis forges character, but that's not true. Our choices shapes our character, and a crisis simply reveals the results of those choices. So if you have been making great choices along the road to your life up to now, definitely this crisis has been harmful to so many of us, with so many millions of deaths around the world, but it has also brought a lot of opportunity, a lot of advantages to those who were ready, who made good choices in times of maybe investing on themselves, becoming stronger, becoming the better version and all. So people who lapse into complaining mode, or who begin blaming others when things get tough, are people whose bad choices are being brought to light. You know, you're pointing fingers and you're blaming and things like that. I mean, it's easy to blame. I'm not saying that you're not right if you're blaming, but I'm saying it's easy to blame, but it's easier. Some people think it's tougher, but I think it's easier to grow yourself and make you bigger and better, so that you can face this kind of crisis. Because this is not the last one. It hasn't been the first one. It is not going to be the last one. We are going to have a lot of crises coming along, you know, in the future years, along our lives. So we have to get prepared. Now, the good news is that the adversities that unmask us today can build character in us tomorrow. Now, definitely, if we are willing to learn from the mistakes. So like I'm telling you, the crisis came in. For example, I'm a coach, I'm a trainer. I've always been training, you know, face to face. I never took the international, the international opportunity, because I was training face to face. So I was also thinking that if I want to go and train and coach and do a keynote in Europe, I have to take the flight and go there. And I was still like thinking, how do I do that? And I was planning on that. I never thought I had Zoom and I had all those opportunities. I had it, I knew it, but I didn't take it. I didn't make provision for me to be able to be seen at international platforms or stages. This was a lack, you know, this was something that I was not looking for. But this pandemic, when it came in, and I was out of job for a long time during this pandemic, because corporates, organizations were not working, and many SMEs were practically out of business, and they didn't have many. They didn't have the budget for training purposes. So practically the day after the pandemic started, you're kind of out of job, and I had to think about it. So this adversity brought to me a lot of and pushed me, because I was kind of taking all my time, like thinking that I have all the time in the world. But now I don't have the choice, and I had to open up to international opportunities and go and find out how do we get on international platforms and things like that. So if we seize our opportunity, I have learned from a lot of my mistakes, because we're all making mistakes. I've made a lot of mistakes. I was very comfortable. I was in my comfort zone. I was happy. I was kind of like, having so many organizations. I'm training and coaching, and my club is there, and everything is fine until COVID came. And when COVID came, everything became not fine. So that was a learning opportunity for me. So we can learn to shift for the better, even in the midst of crisis, just like successful football coaches are able to make adjustments at halftime. Now, if you love Liverpool or Manchester or PSG or Real Madrid, you know that great people, great leaders for that sake can adapt to the uncertainty of the moment. And then they can find a proactive solution that creates forward momentum. Now, how can we turn adversity into advantage? Now, when a human being gets squeezed, what's inside, positive or negative, comes outside. Just like orange. When we squeeze orange, we get orange juice. Lemons, we get lemonade. So choices make us. Crisis reveals us. Now, we have control over our choices. We don't have control over our conditions. You see, we can mourn and we can't mourn and lead at the same time. It's one or the other. Now, leading means giving hope, and mourning does not give people hope. Most people find strength in things that are outside of them. Money, power, title. Well, I think that's a problem, because you should get strength on the things that are inside you. So most of the things that makes up a leader is on the inside, like integrity, wisdom, confidence, vulnerability, joy, passion, compassion, intuition. All these things come from life experiences, from life's trial, from the deepest part of a person's soul. You can fake them, but you can't buy them because they are not for sale. You see, life asks you a question that gauges your effectiveness and wisdom. What have you been through? Show me your scars. Where are your scars? You see, authenticity counts, and the best route to an authentic life is through your scars. And you are all a leader, because leadership is influence. Well, my friends, that was for my part today. So, Kasturi, I think if there are questions, maybe I can take that. And if you have questions, I'll be happy to.
Thank you, Ravin. That was really insightful. You know, you gave us like really some, what I'd say, good quality food for thought here. And before we go to the questions part, so what I, kind of take away here is that what we really need to do, in moments of crisis is to be always in control and have this ability to redefine, question ourselves and adapt actually to whatever situation that is.
Exactly.
Yeah,
right. Exactly. At the end of the day, like you say, it all depends on us, because I mean, we can be having all the technical competence and all that, but as a person, if we are not strong enough to face all this, especially this crisis moments, right? And then we have the competence, but we don't know which direction to go, because we are kind of like, the belief and the faith in ourselves is so low, and our self-esteem goes down as well. So yeah, working on ourselves is a priority.
But then would a person, kind of act or behave differently in a personal crisis or in a work crisis? What would be, your thoughts around this? Like,
can you repeat that question, please?
So the question is about, how do I behave in a personal crisis situation, or if it's a work-related environment?
Okay, how do you behave? Now, let me tell you, if I ask you to behave like X and Y, and you are not used to that kind of behavior, you are not going to be genuine, kind. Like, you see, you are who you are. Like I said, a crisis doesn't produce you. A crisis reveals you. And if you have been someone who've been, along your way, after your technical competence, you continuously work on you to make yourself stronger. For example, even in comfortable moments, you are still thriving and learning and trying to see, for example, if there is a crisis tomorrow, anticipate if there's a crisis tomorrow in my organization. If, for example, let's say you're a monopoly and there is no competition, and you sit down, you're comfortable because we are a monopoly. We don't have any competition, But the wise guy is a guy who says, what happens if tomorrow we have a competitor coming on the market? How will I react? So that person is proactive. He's He's starting to prepare himself. So it's the same thing for us. Continuous personal development, continuous refining of our leadership skills, our personal development would make us ready for unexpected moments like this crisis. So how do we behave? I mean, we can tell people to behave this way and that way, and we are doing it. Why do you think when there's a confinement, there's still people going out, and there's still people not wearing the mask, and there's still people not doing the social distancing? Why do you think? We're telling them. We are telling them, isn't it? But it's the person inside them, they're coming to the natural them. This is how they are. Because when you ask them to do something, we're kind of forcing them. This is not them. They haven't kind of like been educated like that. And I think this pandemic over the last 2 years, we are educating our people. And I think, I hope not, but if ever we are having that kind of crisis in the future, or this one is going to go a couple of more years, we are going to have a more educated population. So people will be educated because now they know that if they don't understand, it's not kind of like, it's not like only following the instructions, because following the instruction, even in an organization, if a manager tells someone do this and the person is just doing it because he's in a job, she's in a job, she needs that paycheck. But if the person understands why that work should be done, and if that work should be done, how is it beneficial for the company? And if it is beneficial for the organization and the company, it's also beneficial for me, because the company, when the company makes profit, I am profitable because I'm part of the company. So when the organization succeeds, I succeed. When that person understands that, then the person do it with the heart. There is not kind of like I'm forced to do it, I have to do that. I don't want to do it, but I have to do it. So behavior also is kind of like, it's a habit. It comes from inside. We can push people to behave differently, but we can't sustain that if that person is not educated, if that person doesn't understand and doesn't adopt. That is a way that I have to behave.
Mm-hmm. Right. I mean, we are past our allocated time, but I'd like to quickly just take this one last question, which is about how do we encourage people to seek help when dealing with a crisis, be it at work? So the thing here is that people usually feel undermined to seek help, even if the crisis is affecting their mental health. So how do we encourage them to come forward?
Very good question. And I think a lot of our speakers, or amazing speakers, I mean, we had amazing speakers during these 2 days, but our amazing speakers also share about that. Now, let me tell you, people normally, they are very afraid to be vulnerable. They don't want to show people their weaknesses. They don't ask for help. And, in cases of suicide and all that, what you see that these people didn't seek help. It's not that they didn't seek help because they didn't want to, but they didn't have that trust, that they didn't feel, they didn't have that inner courage as well to go and seek help, because in our society, people think that seeking help is not a good thing. Now, how can we help people? It's by going to them. It's by opening to them, by accepting people the way they are. In organizations, I've been working for a lot of years in organizations. We tend to the people are coming to work, and sometimes we tell people, you see, you leave your personal problems at home and you come to work, and then when you finish work, then you go home with your personal problems. But we are human beings. We walk with our heart and our mind. We can't keep our heart at home and bring our mind to work. And then when we go to home, we leave our mind at work and we go with the heart. Our mind, our heart, it travels with us. So we need, as people who are aware, and I have a quote that I've written, if you're not aware, you're nowhere. And I think that organizations, CEOs and all the top managers, they are the people who should go to the people in their organization and open up and show them that we have an open door policy, and we want to hear from you. If you have any problem, whether it's work or professional or personal, come to us, because we are always here to help you, because you're family, because you are in the organization, you're part of the organization, you're family. So come to us. You have to be able to, you have to go and encourage people to open up, because if you don't do that, people by themselves are not going to come and open up, because like you said, they're afraid that they'll be, if I come and tell you, you're my boss, and I tell you I have this problem, I may think that you will be thinking I'm a weak guy, and tomorrow if there's a promotion, I'm not going to get it, because you will think that, oh, this guy, he is having some issues, some mental health, etc., etc. But you see, mental health is a sickness like any sickness. We have cough, we have flu, we have all that, and we have to take care of our people. So if we have an organization and we have people working with us in our organization, all these people working for us are our family, and we have to take care of them, and we have to go and tell them, for them to be aware. We have to tell them we are here for you.
That we are here for them. Yes, and I agree completely that the answer is in us stepping forward first and reaching out to them. So with this, Ravin, allow me to say thank you. I have personally learned a lot. I'm sure a lot of our friends online have, taken note of what you've shared with us. It has been a pleasure to have you with us today.